Hey everyone, Thyworm here with a Zero to Hero / League Diary video covering day 1. And if you're interested in that, subscribe. Let's dive in. I start as a Templar, I kill Hillock, I get killed by the Roas while looting a shell, and then I time out. I could show probably 50 clips like this, bricking zones, progression, losing my maps, it's pretty bad out there. I won't, however, let's focus on the fun stuff, I'm sure GGG is working on it, right? In the submerged passage, I encounter the first mercenary, a striker. Not sure a striker and a summoner is a great combination, but what I was hoping for when I made the guide for this build works out quite well, and that is single target in the early campaign. Some mercs are a bit annoying to kill, but generally I was able to kill them in like 5 to 10 seconds. Having a mercenary with you increases loot rarity by 25%, but also increases monster health, and in early campaign that trade-off is a little bit tricky. Later though, I feel you should always run with a mercenary. I kill Brutus, start dropping mercenaries as companions, but I keep killing them for currency as they give tons, which is great in SSF, and I start taking their items too, as they are very decent upgrades. I take on Merville without a mercenary to avoid her having 50% increased health, and in Act 2 a mercenary drops a Wonder Trap, which is an amazing early game unique. And a little later a Crown of Thorns for a bunch of energy shield. They're excellent sources for Orbs of Chance too, which I need to buy gems in the lab and in later acts. I then realized that shrines also affect mercenaries, which is going to be completely broken and fun, so be aware of that. The Vaal oversold dies. I typically enter any Vaal side areas I see for a chance at decent Vaal gems or even a 5 or 6 link later on. Piety bites the dust, and you can tell single target damage is decent on a 3 link only. I trade some fusings for Orbs of Chance, and I buy a Race Spectre and an Animate Guardian. And then I meet Vrexa the Reanimator, who basically is a Necromancer and SRS just like me. So I hire her and we do make a good team. I drop my first 4 link, I color it, I get myself a Carnage Chieftain before I enter the lab and pieces of an Animate Guardian. I kill Izaro, but I forgot to record that, and I ascend to a Guardian, getting me Sentinel of Radiance. Here you see the current damage on Dominus with a mercenary there, that SRS Necro chick. I gamble a bit for some 4 links, the build is now pretty much online with me just rushing through zones like this, and I kill Malachi with the help of another mercenary, and this one uses Absolution and Wrath. He's more of a paladin guy. I buy a bunch of gems in the lab, find another unique from a mercenary which I hand over to my Animate Guardian. Innocence dies, I equip my mercenary with some gear, and a little later Kitava Act 5 falls too. I find a Cloak of Flame from a mercenary which I give to my own mercenary, kill Tukuhama, get Vaal Haste from a Vaal side area, I get a Host Chieftain as well, providing power charges, get a great Ghastly Eye Jewel from an Abyss, kill Lunaris and Solaris, gamble myself another great item, 4 linked boots with 30% movement speed, get a Trigger Craft from the Refinery, which costs 3 chaos, but with all the currency the mercenaries provide, that is not a problem at all. The Depraved Trinity goes down, I improve my gear a bit before the 3rd lap. I completely forgot to record the 2nd one it seems, but I'm simply following my own guide. So 2nd is Auras and the 3rd lap is Block. Kitava dies a 2nd time and I've reached maps. I'm elemental res capped and I have minus 18% chaos res. I've had a lot worse actually at the map start. Immediately a bunch of maps drop, and this happens to me a few times in early maps. I get pretty lucky, I think at least, and I drop a 5 link, and after a bit of crafting it is suitable for my SRS gem. If you kill many mercenaries you increase renown, meaning rarer mercenaries spawn with more rare loot, such as this girl with 2 divines. I craft myself a bleeding immunity flask using beast crafting, go on a shopping spree at Kirak, start using that map device pouch which I already love. I use those divines to get divine vessels for my pantheon powers, and I replace my mercenary with a very similar one that also has absolution, and he summons a bunch of specters too. I dropped my first map that's influenced by the originator. It stated the map boss is accompanied by a synthesis boss, but when I got there that wasn't the case. Maybe that's bugged for now. I found one of these special Thrastus modifiers on this chest piece. I think it's pretty cool and it looks quite powerful. I loot a gratis signet ring which intimidates intimidates on spell crit, which I hand over to my merc that casts Absolution non-stop. I find a rare mercenary with the Envy aura and decide to reserve her in case I'm rolling poison SRS later. I find a Shaper's Seed, which I give to my mercenary for a huge amount of life regeneration for my entire party. And I also drop this belt, the Belt of the Deceiver, which intimidates nearby enemies, which is a big DPS boost, and my mercenary will be providing this. So welcome to the in-game character. Let me give you the latest status. I am level 84 currently. You can see I have about 3500 health. My defenses are kept, 47% chaos res, which is really not too bad at all. I am completely ailment immune thanks to my auras. I will go over that in a little bit. I have 2 specters currently, the Host Chieftain and the Carnage Chieftain. These are the guys that provide me power charges and frenzy charges. The atlas, the skills and the passive trees I can give you a quick glance, but these are exactly as I advertised yesterday in the video. The passive tree is also exactly the same as you can find in the guide, and also the skills I'm using are exactly the same. For example, here you can tell that I have my Summer Raging Spirits linked to Unleash, Melee Splash, Elemental Damage with attacks, and in this case Minion Damage. And the rest of these should be no surprise as well. So what I will go over is the gear, and I will also go over my mercenaries, because I think that is kind of interesting. In terms of auras, maybe before we start, I'm running currently Purity of Elements, Summon Skitterbots, and Haste. And I have also a Val Haste button as well. I can press this all the time really when I am mapping. Then the gear, starting with the wand. This is I think a pretty bad wand currently, but it's got at least a trigger on it, so I'm triggering Elemental Weakness, Desecrate and Flash Offering, which works out quite well for my army. I have this one, some gold res, some fire lightning res, a bit of health, a bit of armor and energy shield. This is my only 5 link. It's really not great. I had to craft some dexterity on there in order to run the haste aura. I have a shield, which is actually pretty decent. The spell block is quite nice. There are no open prefixes or suffixes, so I can't craft on this any further, but this is really not too bad. I have a very decent, I think, amulet for at least the attributes, because I need quite a bit of attributes for this build. And then, yeah, just the rings, some chaos res, some life crafted, some res. This is the exact same thing, life, cast speed, some res. Here the gloves, a bit of dexterity and some more res, but nothing special. The belt, a good amount of chaos res, which is quite nice, but otherwise, again, nothing special. And the boots, it's nice, it's got 30% movement speed. I did a very cheap bench craft of life on this thing, and that is mostly it. The flasks, this is the one that you saw me craft in the video before. So it's an instant recovery flask with bleeding immunity. I have a movement speed with some armor on it. I got an armor flask with decreased duration and chance shock and ignite that really doesn't do anything. Reduced effective curses on a jade flask, and then a bit of movement speed on a phasing on a quartz flask. So that's really the gear overview. And last but not least, I wanted to go over my mercenaries, and I think if I can talk to them, yeah, I can just talk to... Okay, yeah, this happens all the time, guys. It's like pretty annoying, honestly. We're gonna try again. So I can talk to these mercenaries. You can see their level, right, and their sort of base. So this mercenary can only wear intelligence gear. And I can invite them, and then she will join my party in the next map that I open, and so forth. I think none of this is necessarily new. I think her gear, this is just her out-of-the-box gear, kind of. It's, again, really not that great, but what I am quite interested in, and which I think is quite good, is this aura. This aura alone, adding chaos damage to attacks and spells. If you run a poison SRS build, I think this mercenary is going to be amazing, because she will start using Despair to curse them, Void Sphere to hinder enemies in an area, Dark Pact, which may be a little bit of a problem, to be honest, and then, you know, Lightning Warp, that is her movement ability, and then the Envy aura, which is, I think, pretty good. So you have 2 or 3 great skills that this mercenary is using, And you can also, of course, upgrade this mercenary. You can give all sorts of gear to this mercenary so she gets even better. I am currently not using her because I'm not using poison SRS, but I will keep her around at least for the time being. Then I have a reanimator. This one is only level 50 because I haven't seen any new reanimators lately. Here you can see the skills again, and I think it's quite interesting. She can do raise a zombie. This is just one massive zombie. Desecrate, which is of course useful. Summon skeletons, which is not bad. Flash offering. I am also doing flash offering, but you know, I think this also works for my minions. So I could do another offering potentially. I have to test out if that actually works, but could be interesting. And then a relic of binding. There's also a version where she summons summon raging spirits, and she may also have a version where she summons different minions. But yeah, this is a version I have currently, level 50. But again, this is some pretty interesting synergy if you are a summoner and she is a summoner. You can really sort of mix and match your skills, although you can in no way, at least as far as I know, impact any of these skills. So yeah, you'll just have to basically work with this. And then the last guy, this is the guy that I'm actually using. I have him dual wield a minion wand even. I've given him quite a bit of gear and I've talked about some of this. So he's got the Cloak of Flame. I am not sure the fizz damage taken as fire actually works for these mercenaries, but I think it does. Here, this is a bunch of regeneration, also for mana if you would please, but I'm using Eldritch Battery. But it could be fun if you're using Arcane Surge, for example. This will intimidate on spell crit, and this will intimidate if enemies are nearby. So the odds of the enemies being intimidated are incredibly high. And then the rest is kind of standard stuff, I would say. Some resistance, which I think works for his minions. And then he uses these skills. So the guy is level 70. He uses Absolution, Raise Spectre of Transience. So these are temporary specters, but they're quite powerful, to be honest. Desecrate, Reinforce. This is basically Emperor Vol, who just enters the battlefield at the map start, which is, I think, hilarious, honestly. And he also screams like Emperor Vol. So you enter the map and then this guy goes, yeah! I think that's pretty fun. A War Cry, boosting critical strike chance. And then the Wrath Aura, which in my case does nothing because I have my own Wrath Aura. But still, you know, this is a pretty decent mercenary, I think, even if you're not playing a minion build. So yeah, comes highly recommended. This is a Fallen Reverend. And I think that's really all I wanted to show you guys for now. I will be leveling more today and tomorrow, and I will make another update video tomorrow. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon. Love you all. Bye bye.